I'm Katharen Wiese. I'm a summer art fellow here at the Peabody. The fellowship is a joint partnership between the Yale School of Art and the Peabody Natural History Museum. I'm doing a project called A Great Migration. It is an exploration of Sandhill cranes and also the movement of African Americans during the 1910s to the 1970s. So in Nebraska, 500,000 Sandhill cranes land along the Platte River in what some biologists have called a Great Migration. And I became really interested in this language and how it mirrors the language used to describe African Americans also moving from the south to the north. And my family moved from Alabama. My mom's family moved from Alabama in 1969, and they moved to Nebraska. So I was thinking about these other Nebraska families, Nebraska migrants, and their experiences of adaptation. And one of the practices I was really interested in is called painting. Sandhill cranes will dip their beaks in iron-rich mud and they'll preen their wings. And biologists believe this is maybe a way that they're trying to camouflage into the environment. It could also be a way that they're trying to look youthful, like juvenile cranes. And so I was thinking about how African Americans and how people of color also adapt in different environments, and specifically in Nebraska. One thing I've been thinking about in relationship to painting, which the cranes do and kind of camouflages them into the environment, is the idea of racial passing. I'm a very fair-skinned black woman, my grandmother was a very fair-skinned black woman, and her father was nearly white passing. So thinking about black people who might not be, you might see them in space and not really know where they fit culturally. So this idea of camouflage or something moving in and out of focus was really fascinating to me, both as a visual and as a cultural space, something that's kind of in between. For me, when I was first learning about racial passing and different experiences of that in my own family, I kind of felt a sense of judgment, wow, why would you choose to hide this part of yourself that's so fundamental to who you are? I think it made me think about living creatures and our cultural production and all the diverse ways that we behave as being so much more unknowable than we can really give them credit for. And I think that's a beautiful space where I don't have to judge anything. I can kind of accept things on their own terms. This started as an artistic project where I was thinking about the cranes in this sort of equal one-to-one metaphor with African Americans migrating through the landscape and thinking about their practice of painting as as an act of camouflage. And one of the first things that happened when I came here is I met an ornithologist who asked me, is it camouflage or is it something else that they're doing? And I realized their behavior is much more complex than I understood, and there's so many more reasons why they could be participating in any behavior. I began to understand the cranes as a sort of cultural force, that they're producing culture, that they're just as complex as we are. And I think that's been the thing that's been really refreshing and kind of inspiring to me, is they're kind of characters and they're individuals in my work as much as they are playing a kind of metaphorical role. All of us have migration stories. Sometimes they're cross continents, sometimes they're cross countries, cross states. And I moved from Nebraska to New Haven, and I was thinking about this other northern movement that now I'm a participant of. And so one of the things that I've been doing is engaging visitors at the museum. And so a lot of the sculpture and the video include hand tracings from participants that came and engaged the found materials that I was using. And it was really fun to talk to them about where they were from and things that they experienced in their own different trips. Some of the students I worked with were talking about airplane rides. Some of them were talking about moving to a different country where they didn't speak the language. And so it was really fun thinking about this is something that we all experience in different ways, and that we're all a part of it. And these sculptures might be an individual figure or an individual cornstalk, but they embody so much more than that. I find more and more that the artists that I'm excited by and that I'm interested in are having bigger conversations about climate, about social practice, and about the world we live in. And I think of my art as a way to engage with the world, and it's sometimes a very solitary and private practice, but there's always these ways I build in research and engagement and social practice. And a natural history museum, I think, is a space where there's intergenerational audiences. There's people asking questions about science and about anthropology and about living creatures. And so those are all questions that I'm also interested in. it might be that this is a natural history museum, but human history is also natural history. We're also a part of these like environmental systems. And so my practice is very much invested in reclaimed materials and reclaimed narratives and thinking about my own responsibility in the natural world, in part through like using reclaimed materials. So all of the materials in this project are all reclaimed and reused, many of them from the Peabody, from the graphics design department, and from different parts of the museum. And I quilted fabrics that are like plastic, lace, photographs, historical images, textbooks. And one of the materials I'm like the most excited to have made, sort of by accident, is an iron-rich glue, which of course mimics the painting practice of the cranes who use iron-rich mud to paint their wings. And so some of the hands and the wings and the hands are this iron-rich pigment that was made through like glue, water, and then I left it in a cookie tin for a month and forgot about it. And now I have this beautiful glue. So kind of this beautiful happenstance, and also this way of thinking about how do we meet the moment that we are in with the climate, and think about not just our individual lives, but our professional practices and our artistic practices as spaces where we can make progress towards like a more ethical material engagement. So that's been something I've been committed to for the last 3 years. I've really enjoyed my time at the Peabody Summer Art Fellowship, and it's been incredible how supportive everyone is, how professional everyone is, and just like the access to the collections of birds, the access to the digital labs. I'm excited to see how artists engage this fellowship in the future, and the collections and the resources, and just to see what other projects come out of it.